This is All India Radio. In the weekly program Current Affairs, now we bring you a discussion on International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, government's nationwide campaign against gender-based violence. The participants are Neera Mishra and Sushila Ramaswamy, social expert on gender-related issues. Moderator is Sonu Sood, AIR Correspondent.
Today, November 25th, is observed across the world as the United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, a day when the world focuses its attention on one of the most widespread and devastating human rights violations. To discuss the various aspects of this challenging problem and the significance of the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, we have with us Neera Mishra and Sushila Ramaswamy. Neera ji, why was the need felt to institutionalize International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women? How acute is the underlying problem?
It was very, very important to institutionalize this because there was a growing awareness that the women of our world, the 50% of the population, are not only not getting a voice, rather their voice is being suppressed and they are being forced to keep quiet. Otherwise, there is violence against them. And we are all very familiar that this whole day of 25th November started because of the Miraban sisters who were brutally, ordered by Rafael of Dominican Republic because they were political activists and they wanted equality in politics. So women need equality in every aspect. And there is always this stigma and shame that is attached to women raising her voice. So I think in the wisdom of the people who were managing the United Nations at that time, they have very, very rightfully taken this step of institutionalizing awareness of violence against women and how we should eliminate it.
Sushila ji, what would you say? What is the rationale behind starting the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women? And how severe do you think this issue is? How severely is it affecting society?
Well, there is a historical basis to it. It goes back to the 1960s. 3 women who were sisters who were brutally assassinated in the Dominican Republic, which was ruled by a tyrant at that time. These were housewives, but obviously there was a rebellion against the tyrant. Their husbands were imprisoned. So these 3 women apparently had gone to meet their husbands. Of course, many women were part of the resistance movement. But these were women who were also, as I said, housewives, and on their way back, they were brutally assassinated. In a way, they were strangled to death, and the car was made to roll over the cliff to make it out to be an accident, and that led to public outrage, and that is what kind of was the reason why today is marked as the day observed as the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. But if we trace it in a more broader perspective, the late 18th century was the time when the whole idea of women's rights, women's dignity, self-independence, and equality of women, these were ideals that began to be articulated extensively in Western Europe and later on in the United States. Subsequently, the whole of the 19th century was a struggle for women's right to vote, and that was heroic in many ways. And if we come to the later part of the second phase of the 20th century, the post-Second World War phase, we find there was also this effective movements made by women and, of course, on behalf of women for making sure women kind of get involved into the political system, part of the political process. But political participation of women is also very much visible. They should be part of decision-making process. The United Nations played also a very important, significant role. 1975 was declared as the International Year of the Woman, followed by 10 years, which was referred to as the decade for observing Women's Decade, and here issues like gender justice, violence, and essentially to create a violence-free world, equity, equal access, making sure every girl who is born has equal access to education, good health. All this became, you could say, came to the forefront and became very much part and parcel of the debate, both in the international media and within each country and also globally. And then, of course, in 1993, the United Nations passed what was called the Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And we must know women are perhaps the soft targets in every culture, every society. There are some very, very significant data that we have that every day about 137 women are killed, and generally by their own family members, and of which only 40% of these women seek help. This is the kind of appalling statistics we have. And in our own country, we read about how women are often the victim of violence both within the home and outside the home. So this is the perspective within which we must realize how this whole sensitization process began. And interestingly, 25th of November to the 10th of December, which is the International Day for Human Rights, this 16-day period is supposed to be the day when the United Nations decided that they must observe what is called an effort to end violence and making sure women live in a safe and secure world. So this is, in a way, the historical background to how this whole day came to be commemorated.
Neera ji, so what do you feel that the problem of normalization of violence against women in certain sections of society, which leads to violence by partners or family members against the women, and they do not raise a voice, this situation you feel will change by the awareness created through this day?
See, it has changed to a very large extent in the recent decades. If you will notice that even this awareness has also awakened the media of highlighting issues of violence against women. Because when there's an awareness, then there is a recognition that something has happened. And so this is this has actually given women a lot of voice. And we do see women now in politics in a very substantial way in different countries of the world. I mean, in Africa, there are 50% women. In our country, of course, we always had equality. But today, we're talking of the world. We're talking of international women. So internationally, this awareness is very crucial, and it has led to a lot of awareness of where the violence is happening, whether it is a family related, whether it is between siblings, the brothers crushing the sister, or it is between partners, the husband dominating or not only dominating. I mean, we know this recent Shraddha case, cutting her into pieces. So these are issues which are very, very disturbing, that a woman cannot have a voice, cannot have her own personality or her own individuality and yet be a contributing partner. So this awareness has led to not only the government waking up, the society waking up to the fact. And very, very importantly, even men are quietly realizing that they cannot anymore subjugate a woman to a second-grade citizen. This is what this day has done.
Sushila ji, if we speak of today's situation, there is a lot of individualism and social isolation. You think that has fomented the problem, that has exacerbated the issue of gender violence within the home?
No, this I would look at it in a dialectical way. In the spirit of individualism is what made women realize that they are persons in their own right and they must have equal rights, equal access to the kind of freedoms that men have. But then on the other side of it is that it is this individualism, the fact that many men still have to be sensitized. They don't understand that women are persons in their own right. And much of the negativity against women, much of the violence against women, the fact that men, because they're physically stronger, they take out their anger, their frustration, and maybe even kind of dominate women in that sense. And that to be, as I said, dialectically understood.
So this domination that you're talking about, apart from physical violence, how does it manifest itself and how does it create a very difficult situation for women to handle themselves in society or at workplaces?
Well, violence is just not physical. It's also mental. It is also emotional. So there's a whole spectrum of it. For instance, women getting battered, women getting beaten up, what essentially comes under the Domestic Violence Act, in which many countries have adopted, sexual violence, marital violence, even the frustration that a man faces when a woman says no to perhaps what he wants. And, just 2 days ago, we were witness to an incident in India where this man set himself ablaze and he even kind of went and embraced the woman who had rejected him. Now, this in itself, kind of is very bizarre at one level. I say this because a man cannot take a no from a woman. He takes it to mean as if, a woman is somebody who would always say yes to everything that he expects of her. And in some sense, the media also plays. You take some of our Indian films, the Hindi films, the mainstream. There are many films that have brought in women's issues and highlighted it. I don't deny it, but you look to some of the storylines, generally the hero is trying to woo an unwilling heroine at the end of it, but all what you would call talking, and essentially how the whole thing kind of turns out into be a romance. If you really deconstruct the whole thing, the plot itself should have been in a very different way. So other than that, the fact that child abuse, forced marriage, child marriages, human trafficking, female genital retaliation, or you could say all that kind of violence, there's a whole range of it. And also to deny a girl child even the right to be born into this world and not having access to proper health care facilities, education. So violence is just not in the physical sense. It can just cover this whole spectrum.
Neera ji, so what do you feel? What are the various activities which are organized around the world which are drawing attention to this need for continuing action to eliminate violence against women?
This year, as you know, the United Nations has devoted almost from 25th November to 10th December a series of activities across the world through various platforms. It could be talks, it could be panel discussions, it could be just raising awareness through right down to the village area in every aspect of life through advertisements. And there's a vocalizing this whole matter that it is high time we eliminate the violence against women. So the focus is not only creating awareness, but the focus on elimination. And elimination also entails prevention. So when awareness comes, so even I think the police have become very active in this, and all state government bodies have become active in this. So I think it's very, very important that we realize this. It is just not creating awareness, it is elimination. And so the activities are, what are the steps that should be taken, how women are actually motivated to open up, not to silently bear, not to think that this is a stigma against me, it is a stigma against society. So there's, the impunity with which it was happening is now being recognized, and now women are coming out in the open. So that is important.
Neera ji, you feel that due to COVID-19, more cases have emerged of domestic violence in various countries. And how do you see perpetrators of violence getting punishment? What are the laws? And how do you see the victims being looked after? What is the infrastructure for providing them relief?
COVID actually confined people to homes. So there was this added frustration of being confined to home, and that internal guilt that male have of not treating women as equals. And so this violence against women did increase across the world that we have seen reports. Now, in terms of the infrastructure and in terms of rules and regulations, unfortunately, if there is a court order, a status quo to be maintained in a house, and there is a property dispute between siblings or between husband and wife, so is it not the duty of the police to ensure that the status quo is maintained? They say, no, we will not enter into civil matters. Now, these are lacunas which the state and the governments need to see, that once there is a high court order on a particular, whether it is a civil case or a criminal case, the police has to be proactive in preventing any mishap that may lead to complete annihilation of the female part, because females are normally very weak in terms of physique. And infrastructure, I don't think that there is sufficient infrastructure. Of course, they have these women's cells across. They have a women's commission, National Women's Commission. They have State Women's Commission. But these are powerless bodies. They do not have any statutory powers. All they can do is summon somebody, listen to him, admonish him, and then request the police to file an FIR. So, and then under political pressure only these things move. It should not be under political pressure. It should be under case to case. Every case deserves equal attention. So this type of lacunas that are in our system, where the women's cases are not treated seriously and the women's bodies are not actually empowered to do anything much except just summon people, or as I said, that request the police to please register an FIR. They will not do it unless you go to the court. So the girl has gone to court. She has got the status quo. And yet her brother is ill-treating her. forcefully entering the house and forcefully putting his stuff there against court. What are you doing? So we are helpless. So there is not enough infrastructure, there is not enough empowerment of the state machinery to prevent. So if they can't prevent, how do they eliminate violence against women?
So what you're saying is that more sensitization is needed, more proactive approach is needed, more collaborative approach is needed.
More collaborative, as well as I think even the judiciary has to take out a standard order, whether it is a civil case or a criminal case, when there is a status quo and when a woman's life is in peril or her existence, her own property is in peril, the state has to be proactive and take that as it is their responsibility to protect her.
Neera ji, in fact, ma'am, today, Nai Chetna month-long campaign has been launched by Union Minister for Rural Development, Giri Raj Singh, and this is to mark this International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls.
Right.
And he has said that women need to be sensitized also to recognize that violence is happening and to realize that there are redressal mechanisms which they can go to and seek help. So you feel this awareness is very necessary.
There are redressal mechanisms. They should actually open up and report at least, because women have to realize they have to open up, they have to stand up for their rights to be an equal contributor and equal partner in getting the support of the state.
Sushila ji, how do you see this effort sensitizing, as you said, the society, not only the men but also the women? The mothers are often people who sort of discriminate most against daughters and in favor of sons. So you feel the entire society needs to be sensitized?
Definitely. You know, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, made a very important statement a few years back when he said it is important to educate our boys. It's not so much about educating our girls. That is the key thing. We need to educate men. We need to educate boys. We should make them realize right from childhood, within the family, within the school, within the institutions, wherever they go for learning and this interaction that they have with girls, the boys must be taught that they must respect their sisters, their girlfriends, their mothers, of course, mothers are always respected. So, but the same boy, when he grows into an older man, and then how sometimes he kind of makes his mother a victim of his own frustration. So it is right from the childhood that this education or re-education must begin. Moreover, wherever there is kind of violence, which is whatever may be the kind, it must be tackled in a very firm way, that we are committed to the principle of gender equity and justice, and that no one will be perpetrating violence on any other person. This is the kind of effort that must be there. Let me also add a point. The last 2 years of the pandemic, any number of studies which has revealed that how women have suffered much more because of the pandemic. I'm not saying men haven't suffered. Every section of society has suffered. But women have suffered more because many issues, from being caregivers, because of their incomes having vanished, to kind of taking up so much of responsibility within the homes because of schools being closed and because of lockdowns, any number of studies. The fact of the matter is, it's been proved that poverty always has a woman's face, meaning women bear this much more than men. Poor, poverty, unemployment, deprivation, backwardness, violence, certain sections of society suffer it more than the others. But among them, the women suffer even more. And this is what we need to kind of remind ourselves and see to it that in the effort to create a better world, women get their due.
Neera ji, in fact, Rural Development Ministry said there are 1,200 gender resource centers set up across the country, and a total of 160 more such centers will be launched during this campaign. So you feel that having these kind of specialized infrastructure where women can go and which have been set up only to address women's problems, that will improve the situation?
Earlier, when the government realized this, there were centers of prevention of crime against women, and these rural resource centers focused on addressing the issues of women are a very good step. The only problem arises is that when these centers are set up, it is not well equipped or not well empowered to take any proactive step then and there. So then at the end of the day, you reported a crime, and if you have reported the crime, then the process will start, the paperwork will start, and then it goes back to the police and to the courts, etc., which has to be avoided. If it's a resource center for gender things, they should not only train the people managing that resource center. See, these are lacunas we have found even in Panchayati Raj, because we have been working at the grassroots in Panchayati Raj also, and the Anganwadis. They're not empowered, they're not properly trained. So this is a very good step, that more resource centers, but the gaps that are there in having a resource center and making it effective, those gaps have to be.
Neera ji, in this age of digitization and computerization, a lot of cases of cyber crimes and cyber stalking one hears of.
Yes.
So you feel that on that front also the targeted action needs to be taken?
Correct. And you know something, Sonu, it's very peculiar. Crime against women, violence against me through my sibling, and also cyber crime, because I did the Delhi Rights report and I was threatened with a lot of bad messages. The police was very proactive. You see, cyber crime is the channel is very good, because, you know, the system is very fast. Internet system is fast. So they can trace things very fast. They can collect evidence very fast. So within 3 months, they brought the person from Gujarat and they arrested him and the case was filed. So that has to also be taken into account. So it's not related to because I did the Delhi Rights report. Even otherwise, women are stalked and women are, rebuked and women are talked, nonsense is spread on the internet. So cyber crime is becoming more effective in terms of getting the process faster and getting the relief faster.
Sushila ji, feel that everything works in tandem. The government's focus on empowering women through creating opportunities for them to get employed, even the economically weaker sections, through self-help groups or through Mudra scheme, the various schemes of the government which have a special focus on women, they will also go a long way in improving this situation, where the women they will stand on their feet and probably not take violence or open up their protest against whatever is happening.
Definitely. Let's not forget what is normally said in a conventional way, that if you educate a man, you educate only a man. You educate a woman, you educate the whole family. An educated family, an educated woman within the family certainly will bring about a better family life, will ensure a better life within and outside the family. And this is what Swami Vivekananda really pointed out, that if you really want to judge the level of civilization of any given society, let's look to the status of women. And that's how, if you look at how this whole modern India was also conceived, from Ram Mohan Roy to Bankim to Ishwar Vidyasagar to Swami Vivekananda to Mahatma Gandhi, and then many, many women who participated so extensively and so courageously in the nationalist movement. They were all fired with this vision that, yes, it's not only an independent India, but an independent India where women will be secure, a good India, a better India. And it is this we need to remind ourselves. After all, the preamble of this country, of the Indian Constitution, is known for the way it articulates the values of social justice, equality and freedom, and that includes all women and men. So we must recover this, we must remind ourselves and see to it that days like these are taken in a much more serious way. Governments are also doing its bit, and the present government is doing considerably for women's welfare. All the more, it is important that all these kind of work cumulatively to creating a better world.
Neera ji, and what would you say about the role of NGOs and the role of community?
This is very important, because the state government can do X amount. But it is the important NGOs and community people who have to be made aware. And if they are made aware, I think the RWA should play a very important role. And not NGOs which are working in this field, even other NGOs, they should be sensitized to assess if there is a problem, to be able to help that woman locally and ensure that she gets proper help, whether it is legal help or it is reporting. Because most of the time you realize that, especially in rural areas, the women are not even educated enough to write an application. They're not even educated enough to be able to explain properly, because they are very, very apprehensive about everything. And so they don't open up. And this happens in middle class families. It also happens in very high-end families. I know women in big, big industrial houses who have also kept quiet because stigma lagega. So I think that is wrong. Women have to open up at every level, and there have to be NGOs, local people who should also be aware that something wrong is happening and give motivation to the female to be able to report it in time and to be able to get the redressal, whatever redressal is available. Because one most important thing is once the crime is reported or once this violence is reported, at least the other party who's doing the violence becomes a little cautious that yes, if I do anything more, definitely something action will be taken against me. So that is very critical.
Neera ji, so you feel that awareness programs should be there at college, school level even, so that there is a respect for fellow human beings irrespective of gender?
Definitely at the school level, but I think what we need today is the parents' level. Because at home what happens, it is the parents and it is when parents do not give equality to the girl child and the boy child, that's where the discrimination starts. And that carries forward from generation to generation that has been happening. Yes, there are these parent-teacher meetings. At that time, there should always be at least 10 minutes awareness camp, mandatory in all schools, that they should be told about these are the signs of violence against women. These are the steps that you should ensure that your child is protected. And even male child should be made aware that not if you do such things, you are going to be liable, you will be punished. So yes, there has to be at school level, college level, and even in, corporates, because a lot of violence happens in corporates too.
Right.
See, it's not only physical violence, it's also mental trauma that a woman is given in terms of her work promotions and, that glass ceiling and all that. That also is, in a way, a violence against a woman because she's not being given an equal opportunity to rise up in society. So there are different levels at which we need to tackle this situation, awareness at every level, right from organizations to even judiciary, even government, and even corporates. And of course, crude level, basic level, every level we need to be very, very cautious now because women form 50% and they should get everything as equal no matter which level they come from, wherever they are, there should be equality.
Sushila ji, prevention and mitigation is of course always the foremost path which needs to be taken to fight against any social evil. But we cannot eradicate it completely. It is a gradual process. So if we talk about relief, what is the stress which needs to be laid on providing refuge and essential services for survivors of violence? And what is the state of funding for rehabilitation and awareness programs?
That's a very important dimension of it. Education, I spoke about. Strengthening law, make sure laws are gender sensitive and gender neutral, enforce law in a way that those who offend are given the kind of punishment that the law has meted out. And then, of course, create forums, create measures whereby the victims are taken care of, they receive their redress. All this, a whole kind of a process whereby victims who are battered or who are at the receiving end are taken care of. So I would go by the fact that education, social sensitivity, the sensitization program, and strengthening the rule of law. These are the key things to bring about gender-just world and a society.
Violence against women is a deep-rooted social evil, and to eliminate this, we need to have a mindset where individuals respect all their fellow human beings, irrespective of their gender, and close collaboration between various arms of government machinery is there to give quick redressal to victims. Thank you so much for this inspiring and introspective discussion on the sensitive topic of elimination of violence against women. Neera ji and Sushila ji, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are listening to a discussion on International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, government's nationwide campaign against gender-based violence. The participants were Neera Mishra and Sushila Ramaswamy, social expert on gender-related issues. Moderator was Sonu Sood, AIR Correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.